Well, greetings, Angel fans, and welcome to the debut episode of Halo Territory, the newest member of the Foul Territory Network, where we'll be talking all things Angels. We'll try to keep you informed, hopefully, keep you entertained, and hopefully, no subject will be off limits. My name is Mike DiGiovanna. I'll be hosting the show along with Mark Trumbo, former Angel slugger. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. I'm excited for this. I think that we have quite a few great topics to cover, and I think the Angel fans will really enjoy it.
All right. For those who don't remember me, I'm now a semi-retired sports writer. Spent 41 years at the Los Angeles Times, 30 of those covering Major League Baseball, 20 of them as an Angels beat writer. And for the last 10 years of my career, I went back and forth between the Angels and Dodgers. Mark needs no introduction, but for those who don't remember, he played 10 years in the big leagues, hit, I believe, 218 home runs, and a fair measure number of those with the Angels that went a long way. So glad to have Mark aboard. And today we're going to talk about let's be frank, it's been a pretty uninspiring winter so far for the Angels. They've made 5 moves that will impact the big league roster. 4 of them involve pitchers. Biggest move was they traded for Grayson Rodriguez, a young pitcher from the Baltimore Orioles, for slugger Taylor Ward. They also signed Alec Manoah, a former All-Star, coming off injuries. They signed Jordan Romano and a veteran left-hander, Drew Pomerantz. And they acquired an infielder from the Boston organization, Vaughn Grissom. I've heard these moves in some places be described as lottery tickets in that they're cheap and they could pay off big. And in other places, they've been described as reclamation projects. I do think most of them tend toward the latter, but I will say in Grayson Rodriguez's case, this could be a lottery ticket. Mark, you played with Grayson for briefly in the Orioles organization. What are the Angels getting, and what is the challenge going to be for this kid coming off a pretty major injury?
Well, to be honest, when I saw the news of the deal, I know Taylor was a guy oft rumored uh, to possibly be on the move at some point for the last few years. And I think some other teams made sense along the way. The timing, could have made sense at any point, but I think the Angels did very well. And I was frankly quite surprised that they landed a guy like Grayson Rodriguez, who I was there when he got drafted. And I remember probably watching his first outing and especially his first big league camp. Tremendous arm when healthy. His fastball is top tier. It's kind of plays from an upshoot delivery. It's going to be in the mid 90s, if not close to 100. And it's a premium offering. I mean, there's no two ways about it. He's a frontline starter, a 1-2 when healthy, and he's got a really nice split finger to complement it. I think the question mark is going to be his slider, or it has been. But I think that's where you pair him with a guy like Mike Maddox with a tremendous amount of experience working with all types of pitchers, but some really good ones. And hopefully he can take a look at it and see something that may make sense. Maybe it's simplifying the pitch, or maybe it's something outside the box too. But I think the biggest thing for Grayson is going to be staying healthy, and he does have a fair amount of injuries that for a young player is not great, but he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on the arm either, which I think is a huge upside. And if this pans out, it could end up looking like a steal for the Angels.
Yeah, the obvious upside here is he's still young. He's in his 20s, and 4 years of club control. And as we know, developing good young pitching has been a struggle for this Angels organization for a few years. Taylor Ward on an expiring contract had a great year last year, but he was hitting free agency. Uh, how important was the 4 years of control aspect in this deal? And uh, could this kid be their ace eventually?
From what I've seen, and I've seen quite a few, pitchers over the years, he does have the stuff. He's got the look, and he's got the demeanor too. I think that's a big deal too. I saw a guy that wasn't afraid whatsoever. He wanted to go out there and battle each and every time he took the ball. True competitor, also quiet, which is at times what you want in a young player. Listen more than you speak, but he's going to mature into a guy that is going to be counted upon. And as far as the contract and years of control, it's all upside. I mean, he's extremely affordable right now. He's got 4 years under team control, and then hopefully he blossoms into a premier starting pitcher. And there's a hard decision down the road there. As far as Ward, you're going to have to make up a lot of the power production that he provided somewhere, and then we can get into kind of where that might be. But I'm not sure it's going to come from the existing guys on the field necessarily. So that'll be interesting for a team that relied heavily on the home run last year to score runs. But I think that frankly that I'd rather have a premier starting pitcher, which is what likely we can get in Grayson Rodriguez, and fill an outfield need elsewhere.
Let's talk about a couple of the reclamation projects. Alec Manoah was an all-star a few years ago with the Blue Jays. Coming off Tommy John surgery, at his peak, I think he went 16-7 and 2.24 ERA and 31 starts in 2022, 180 strikeouts and 196 innings. Those are pretty good numbers, but it's been a while. What do you think of this signing, and where do you see this guy fitting in the rotation, assuming he has a pretty healthy bounce back?
I think this would be a high upside candidate. Obviously, there is some risk here too. I think when healthy, he's an innings eater. Obviously has a big personality. Seems like a very tough competitor, but he's got some issues as well that it's going to be up to him. I think if we want to call it what it is, it looks like some maturity things at times, and being a professional. And that includes, coming into camp in good shape. I don't think you can gloss over that. It's a big deal for a starting pitcher. I think playing here in Anaheim, it's a little bit sneaky. It's a hot place to play. The summers are some unrelenting at times, and it's in my mind very important to be in good physical shape to be able to go out there, especially on day games and whatnot. But if he's healthy, I see him. The strikeouts are nice, but to me, he's more of a ground ball pitcher. And we turned, I believe, the most double plays in the game last year. And if you can have another guy that induces that kind of contact, that's great. But again, he's coming off Tommy John. He did return to play last year briefly, but for whatever reason, the Blue Jays decided to move on. And then I believe the Braves claimed him, and they also moved on, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But we got another guy that former All-Star to slot in, and I think he's making $2 million or maybe a little under. So it's a lot of upside there too if it goes well.
Now, a lot of questions in this bullpen right now. The Angels lost Kenley Jansen to the Tigers. He was a pretty good signing last year. I have to admit, I was very impressed with how Kenley pitched. But they don't have a closer right now, and we just don't know about Ben Joyce. When the guy's healthy, he's throwing 105, 104, great. He's your closer. But this team does not have a clear-cut closer in my mind right now, and they did add, at least to the bullpen, with Jordan Romano as a former closer with the Blue Jays, but I don't think anyone's going to expect him to close. Drew Pomerantz, a really nice bounce back year, a veteran lefty. He's 37, but when you look at the year he had last year in Chicago with the Cubs, you can almost kind of bank on him. Not so much a reclamation project in my mind. But Jordan Romano, interesting guy, an all-star closer with the Blue Jays just a few years ago. Really rough year of the Phillies last year. There were some elbow issues. There was a nerve issue with his finger. I don't know how much of that, if he's healthy, how much better a pitcher he is. But I don't know. When he was with the Blue Jays, even when he was closing and having good years, he never struck me as that kind of dominant closer you could rely on. What's your thoughts on these two guys?
Well, Pomerantz, I really like. I think that I was a bit surprised that he chose to play here. Frankly, he's at the point in his career. He's had a great career, and I know personally, he got me out a lot more than I got him. I faced him quite a bit, at least, and you tend to remember those things. But I also know him a little bit off the field. He's a very nice guy,
Yeah.
and he's at the point where he could choose to play anywhere. And oftentimes, guys like that will want to play for a team that is likely to contend, which if we're being honest, I'm not sure that we're there. I'm not sure that we're all that close, to be honest. But things could align, and a lot of things could be very surprising this year. So you can't rule anything out. But I think it's a guy like Drew is going to be nothing but good. I think he's incredibly reliable. He can get both right-handers and left-handers out. And it seems like his stuff is as good as ever. He's got a tremendous curveball, which very tough to hit, let's say. And then Romano, I don't know about his health, and it seems like he fits into the mold of kind of a coin flip. I think even when healthy, he was kind of one of those closers that would maybe he wouldn't like to, but he made it interesting quite a bit. Some traffic on the bases, and as a teammate and a defender, sometimes that can really wear on you a little bit. Sometimes you do like the clean ninth inning, and I think that's what Kenley Jansen did an excellent job of. When he came into the game, it was usually over. And he brought a lot of veteran leadership, and I think he did a tremendous job. And I think I was hopeful. I say but I think the Angels fans were, that he would consider coming back. It seemed like things went very well playing for the Angels, but for whatever reason, I think he's going to play for the Tigers next year.
Yeah. Who do you see closing right now if Ben Joyce can't, if he's not ready, certainly at the start of the season? You got Ryan Zefferjon and guys like that. Reed Detmers is moving back to the rotation, so.
Yeah, I would actually say Kirby Yates makes sense for me. I know last year wasn't his best, but being reunited with Mike Maddox, who they were together in Texas, and he had some very nice seasons there. And his split finger was somewhat missing in action from what I understand last year, and that's his bread and butter for the most part. So it's one of those things where the feel, maybe he just lost the feel to some degree and a little bit of confidence in it, but those things can change quite quickly too. And that would be my pick on paper.
Wow.
As somebody on the outside, there could be somebody else that they have in mind internally though. So I don't know.
Yeah. Full disclosure, we forgot to mention him at the start of the show when we talked about additions. Another veteran guy, when his split is right. I mean, he's really tough, but he was never right with the Dodgers last year. Really good dude. It'll be really interesting. Once again, another reclamation project, but a veteran arm who is not that far removed from some pretty good years with the Padres.
Very true. All these guys, although Romano I think is a little bit younger, but age is not necessarily on everyone's side. And I think that when you're dealing with guys that are in their mid to late 30s, it's not, you never want to overuse a reliever, but with guys like that, you really have to be careful because, a 37, 38-year-old body, it doesn't recover as quickly. Injuries probably have played a point if they've gotten to the point where they are still playing at 37, 38 years old or older. And those guys generally know themselves better and might advocate more, for a day off when needed. So you're going to need to find ways to pick up the slack and have some of those swing guys, maybe Zefferjon and others, go multiple innings to make sure that health is maintained.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the guys still out there who I'm sure some Angel fans would love to see. And frankly, I would too. I mean, the Angels did clear some payroll room when they, renegotiated Anthony Rendon's contract, cleared some of his money off the books, deferring his salary for a couple of years. So they appear to have the financial resources to make a decent move. To me, the guy who fits perfectly, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I would suspect it probably won't, is Cody Bellinger. I mean, first of all, the Angels are in desperate need of left-handed hitting, especially in the middle of the lineup. I think right now the only decent left-handed hitter is Nolan Shanwell, the first baseman. And while I'd probably rather have no other guy up there at the plate, if you need to get a runner in from third base with none or one out, he's the guy. But I don't think he's ever going to hit more than 15 or 20 homers in the big leagues. So he solves that. And there's a huge void in center field right now. I don't think you're going to want to put Joe Adell back in center. I know they don't want to play Mike Trout there too much. So if you could get a guy like Bellinger defensively, would really shore up the outfield defense and allow you to keep Adell and Trout, and if need be, Jorge Soler on the corners. How big of a move would that be if they could somehow get into the bidding?
Obviously, it would be great. This is one of these times where it makes almost too much sense, unless you're the one having to cut the check.
Yes.
As a fan, we have a need. We have multiple needs, like you highlighted. His defense has always rated extremely highly. Incredibly athletic guy, and he is that left-handed power hitting bat that is highly coveted, and for a team that quite frankly, is in desperate need of some left-handed pop, he solves that need. But he's coming off another strong year. He's still young. He's never seems to age. To be honest, he's always somewhere around 26 or 27. He could be a little older, but I don't know. I don't know if he has interest in playing here. I don't know him personally, so I can't answer that. But I do know that one thing that can sway people's decisions, and it's the same thing that always does. So I think if we're going to want to get a guy like that, we're going to have to really pay for him, maybe overpay. But sometimes that's what you have to do if you want to land the guy.
Yeah, for sure. Great clubhouse guy, proven winner. I do know the Yankees have reportedly made a few offers. The Cubs are in the mix. The Mets are in the mix. So he's got some big market teams that have won. That'll have he'll have some great options. Not sure what it's going to take to sign Cody at this phase, but you're looking at a 9-figure commitment. Who else out there, especially maybe among pitchers, do you think the Angels should pursue right now, Mark? Or is there maybe an Alex Bregman or Suarez type at third base? Who would be on your wish list right now?
Well, I can tell you who I thought made a ton of sense and a little bit unfortunate was Michael King. I think
Sure.
he is a tremendous starting pitcher, ground ball machine, and compared to some of these other guys, maybe like Framber or Suarez, more affordable for whatever reason. And he already came to an agreement in December a couple of weeks ago, so he's off the board. And so you get into other guys, and Bellinger, Kyle Tucker, guys like that. These are 1A players that are going to command a ton of money. But beyond that, it starts to look a little bit like slim pickings. A guy like Chris Bassett could make some sense if you're looking for more starting pitching depth. On the relief side, Evan Phillips coming off injury, but when healthy, an all-star caliber arm, tremendous teammate as well. I know him, from playing in Baltimore, and he really blossomed with the Dodgers, and we'll see what happens there. But center field is a big question mark. I think the glove of Teodosio, how can you not like it?
Sure.
Guy's range is as much as I've seen. Maybe too much so at times, but I think he's working on that with some of the guys. But the bat is, it's a work in progress, let's say. And, in this day and age, the premium defender, automatic out at the plate, you just don't see too many of them. Whereas, maybe decades past, you maybe out of the shortstop position would be all right with that. Catcher, center field, not as much, but especially now, you just can't have somebody who, isn't bringing a lot to the table in that regard.
You know, it wasn't that long ago where the Angels were always in the mix for big time free agents. I mean, they signed Albert Pujols and CJ Wilson in one day back in 2012, you know, over 300 million in commitments. Josh Hamilton a year later, Anthony Rendon in 2000, before 2020. And certainly you can't blame Artie Moreno for being gun shy about dipping his toes into those waters after this Rendon contract. 7 years, 245 million will go down as one of the worst contracts in big league history. So you really can't blame him along those fronts. But, you know, they were in on Garrett Cole that year as well. Lately, you just don't hear the Angels mentioned even with some of these big time free agents. Now, you were a free agent, you're about a decade removed from free agency, but I know you keep up with the game, you keep up with current players. Like, what is the perception of the Angels organization right now in the eyes of free agents, and what could be going on through their heads when they look at this organization, this team, and when they have that decision to make? Is that going to help or hurt the Angels?
Well, I mean, if we're being honest, which is, I think, what we're aiming to be on this show, it's not the most desirable destination currently. There's no other way to put it. It seems like, the biggest thing, in my opinion, is a former player is what are the chances that you're in for a potentially very long season if things don't go well, as far as the winning and losing goes, because that can really wear on guys. And, once June rolls around and the team's, potentially already out of it, it just is not a great thing. And then you're going to possibly be dealing with trade talks and other things. So that's not ideal. It seems like hopefully they're able to dial in the issues in the facilities. I know there were at least one issue raised as far as the air conditioning, but I'm sure that's rectified by now. But I think that there's some things that they could do to make it a lot more attractive. Living in Southern California, people love it. I've yet to meet a guy that doesn't want to live near the beach, and the commute is usually quite reasonable, and things like that matter as well. So I think sometimes it's very easy just to think, years and dollars, but free agency is a lot more than that. And, to echo your point, some of these deals, especially the Rendon one, it was a stinker. It didn't work at all. He didn't, zero all-stars, very little production. And it's very unfortunate. They paid a fortune for a guy that provided next to nothing. I think he'll be known more for some of the unfortunate incidents with the cast and, getting into it with a fan in Oakland than anything he did on the field. So I don't want to be too critical of him, but, he didn't provide hardly anything to the team.
Do you think, I mean, we're talking about a team that has had 10 losing records in a row, coming off a couple of 90-loss seasons, haven't made the playoffs since 2014. Is it just those factors that are weighing in the minds and eyes of these potential free agents? So is there something else about maybe how this team has been run over the last 10 years? Ownership? I wrote a story in 2022 just looking at the lost decade, the last 10 years of that time. And, I think the term I used then was that they're in baseball purgatory. They've had these opportunities to sort of rebuild. The owner has refused to rebuild. To me, the year that really stands out is 2022, when Shohei was a full year and a half away from free agency. They could have got a boatload of prospects. Maybe some, young major leaguers in a trade like that. I heard the name Jackson Merrill kicked around then. You look at what the Washington Nationals got for Juan Soto a couple years ago. I mean, that's a deal they might even been able to make in 2023 before Shohei ended up signing with the Dodgers. Is there something beside, just the losing and the perennial losing that has sort of held them back?
I think that's probably the biggest thing. I think there's just an uncertainty, like you said, about where they look, what is the direction of this franchise? I know bringing in a guy like Ron Washington. I was there for the introductory press conference. I remember a lot of energy in the room, some bold predictions that didn't quite get there. Run down the West and whatnot. Last place. So it's not necessarily any one person's fault, but I do know that it didn't really work. And from what I hear, some of the tactics used, I remember they banned the cell phones. And as a former player, on the surface, I found that to be very juvenile. I know that there were daily classroom type settings that a veteran player really wants no part of. You don't want to listen to 30 minutes of talks on base running. That's a spring training thing. I know with a younger team, maybe it seems imperative to do more of the teaching, but at some point, these are grown men and they're going to have to, go out there and get the job done, but they want to be treated as such too. And one of the big problems, I think, is, you're rushing some of these guys to the big leagues, cutting out quite a bit of the development that used to take place. And so you're at kind of a conundrum where they're still in need of some of the basics. Maybe it's sliding. Maybe it's, just simple core fundamentals that have been overlooked because of the haste to bring them up. And most of these guys have held their own, if we're being honest, but there's nothing that can make up for the sheer amount of reps that guys they used to get. At least when I was coming up, I was told you had to master the level. That was what we were told. What that means, not exactly sure, but I do know it equates to a lot of playing time, a lot of at-bats, and a lot of experience. And you get used to it. And you see all types of situations. So when you get to the big leagues, it's not your first time being exposed to some plays that quite frankly don't happen very often. But for these guys, maybe it is the first time. And sometimes you learn the hard way like that.
Yeah, these are going to be some topics we'll explore later in the show. Certainly player development, a big issue with the Angels. So with that, we'll wrap up this debut episode. Please like and subscribe, and join us later in the week. We'll be talking to Sam Blum, the outstanding writer for The Athletic, about the Tyler Skaggs trial. So that should be very interesting. Until then, we'll see you next time on Halo Territory.